Prespawn bass fishing. Probably one of our favorite times of year. I know for sure it's when historically you're gonna catch your biggest fish of the year. So let's break down Prespawn bass fishing a little bit today. Number one, the weather can change. Bright, sunny, I warmed up, then we pull under the shade and I'm freezing to death. But number two, you have two seasons of what I call Prespawn bass fishing, kind of the early Prespawn transitioning into the later Prespawn. Early Prespawn for me is still really all about the shad. The fish are thinking about spawning, but they're still really heavily feeding on shad. And I'm gonna use shad oriented type baits. And one of the number one is the umbrella rig. I know we've all heard about it. It catches some of the biggest fish in the lake. And as you can tell, it imitates the bait fish that still these early pre-spawn fish are going to be feeding on. Now, the umbrella rig can be fished a lot of different ways. You can just get out on these windy points, which is where a lot of the bait's gonna be, just flail it around. But some of your biggest fish, and this is the time of year to catch the biggest ones, are target oriented with the umbrella rig. That's something I don't think a lot of people do, is try to focus on docks, brush piles, actually throwing it around rocks. You don't have to be in open water to fish the umbrella rig, and you're gonna catch some really big fish. This is the Strike King Tour Grade umbrella rig, titanium. So one of the aggravating things is when you catch one, it bends all up and try to get it run straight. The titanium is gonna go perfectly in place every single time. Second, another target-oriented bait, but still imitating the shad, is the Strike King Tungsten Thunder Cricket. Now, one little different I do this time of year, typically I use a blade minnow or a swimming shiner. That's two of my favorite trailers. I like to put that rage swimmer on this time of year. The water's gonna be cold, the shad are gonna be lethargic, and this is a little more subtle, just a little more subtle. You can fish the bait slower. I will transition later in pre-spawn to more of a green pumpkin or even a red tungsten thunder cricket, but right now, early pre-spawn, I'm gonna be using the white and chartreuse. One of the keys though, for me, is the trailer. When you change your trailer on any thunder cricket, you can do a lot. And this time of year, early pre-spawn, the Rage Swimmer is one of my favorite trailers by far. One of, if not the most historical pre-spawn fishing bait is a jerkbait. In the KVD series of elite jerkbaits, this is the new elite line that's got the really good hooks, the incredible paint schemes coming out of the pack. Jerkbait fishing, much like Alabama rig fishing, same places, you're gonna do the same exact same, but don't forget to target fish with this stuff. It's great on open points like I talked about with the umbrella rig. Don't forget to target oriented fish with this type of stuff. Brush piles, docks, rocks, whatever. You're gonna catch your biggest ones off that target oriented thing. Now that's all kind of pre-spawn, the first stages of pre-spawn. As we get later, closer to right when the fish is gonna spawn, I'm really gonna transition over to them crawdad type colors and more specifically orange and red type colors. I got two crankbaits that I really like to fish. Number one is the gravel dog. This is gonna be fished a little bit more off, so that offshore rock, you can crank brush piles with it or maybe on the tips of the point. It's gonna get 8 to 10 foot deep. Deadly pre-spawn bait. Again, this is kind of a crawdad pattern, got a lot of orange in it. So this is kind of gonna be my deeper crankbait. And I'm gonna bring this Co-Star, I'm gonna call it the Co-Star, I'm gonna bring it into the frame at the same time. This is the Strike King 1.5, KVD 1.5 hard knock. Now, for me, pre-spawn, most of the time with these two baits, I'm gonna be fishing a little bit dirtier water versus the first three baits I showed you is gonna be a little bit cleaner water. When I transition into the crawdad type stuff, the more reds, the more orange, I'm gonna be fishing a little bit dirtier water. And that rattle in the hard knock, for whatever reason, they like it in the pre-spawn. They just like that little bit of rattle. That's the one time of year that I really have to have a rattle in my crankbait. And the hard knock is a unique rattle. It's just one hard knock and they like it. This one I'm gonna fish a little bit shallower, you know, that cranking them shallow boat ramps, the shallow dock poles, shallow stumps, versus the gravel dogs a little bit more offshore. It's gonna run a little bit deeper. Side note, the custom light shallow spools are just super accurate casting lose reels for them three. Last, the Strike King skipping jig. a deadly bait in the pre-spawn time of year. I really like two colors, basically. I like the Alabama craw, which has a little orange in it, and this is our straight green pumpkin. It has a little bit of red flake in it. It's going to be hard to see. The mid-size raised bug is one of my favorite trailers to put on it. Same deal though, target oriented, whether I'm flipping docks, flipping stumps, maybe even flipping laydowns, maybe even flipping cypress trees. I just feel later in the pre-spawn, these fish really get on targets. The biggest fish set up on some type of target to basically wait to spawn, and one of the best ways to pick them off is a Strike King skipping jig. That's a whole lineup. That's a whole arsenal that we started in the early pre-spawn. We can call it pre-spawn, which is more shad oriented with my umbrella rig, you know, with the jerkbait, and then the thunder cricket. And then I transitioned over into the true pre-spawn right before they spawn, more crawdad type baits, more reds, oranges, which is very, very important at that time of year. But one thing's in common, whether it's pre-spawn or true pre-spawn, the biggest bass of the year will be caught during the pre-spawn time of fishing.